Mr. Truman, Her Excellency Golda Meir, Foreign Minister of the State of Israel, and members of Hadassah. It's with sincere regret that I have to be absent from this great meeting of Hadassah, the great women's Zionist organization. Conditions are such that I can't be present. I've had to cancel all my engagements during the summer and fall of this year due to illness in the family. I had fully expected to be with you here this evening, but I cannot. You know that nothing would keep me away but a real and personal situation that I'm not able to overcome. The theme of your meeting here is meeting the challenge. That challenge is whether freedom and democracy, with a small d, shall continue on this planet. There are two great free governments in the world that will continue the fight against totalitarian government governed by dictator. Those governments are the United States of America and the State of Israel. Those two governments stand for the belief that governments are organized for the benefit of the people whom they serve. The totalitarian or dictator governments believe that the people are to be exploited by the dictator. They believe the dictator's whim is all that counts in government. We've achieved our unity in this great republic of ours not by eliminating our differences in religion and tradition, not by hiding or suppressing our political and economic conflicts, but by holding to a concept which rises above all of them, the concept of the brotherhood of man. All great religions, whatever their differences, acknowledge this belief in God as the Father and Creator of mankind. For us, therefore, brotherhood is not only a generous impulse, but also a divine command. We acknowledge brotherhood as a religious duty. All the faiths, Protestant, Catholic, Jewish, in this great country claim as a common heritage the great thoughts of the Hebrew prophets. The prophets were among the first men who saw the concept of the fatherhood of God required that men do justice to one another. They call on the people of their day, just as they call on us today, not only to recognize the humanity of others, but also to work unceasingly for the achievement of great justice in human relations. It has never seemed to me that I deserved any special credit as an individual for what I did about Israel when I was President of the United States. In recognizing the new state of Israel and in giving careful consideration to the needs and problems of after 1948, I believe I was only expressing the sentiments of the people of the United States regardless of political party or religious belief. And I also believe I was acting as President of the United States ought to act, that is, in the interest of the United States of America. There was something deeply moving and deeply stirring to every American in the creation of the new state of Israel in the ancient land of Palestine. Here was a country founded on the love of human freedom, just as our own country was based on the ideal of freedom. Here was a country designed to be a haven for the oppressed and persecuted of the earth, just as our own country has been. Here in the land of Moses and the prophets was a rebirth of a nation dedicated as of old to the moral law and to a belief in God. I had faith in Israel before it was established. I have faith in it now. I believe it has a glorious future before it, not just as another sovereign nation, but as an embodiment of the great ideals of civilization. One of the great men of Israel and one of the great men of modern times was the late Chaim Weizmann. I knew him and admired him. He was a founder not only of Israel, but also of the Hebrew University. Israel did not begin on May 14, 1948. Israel had many beginnings. One of them came on the day in 1918 when Dr. Weizmann laid the cornerstone of the Hebrew University. The university preceded the state, and that is as it should have been, for the state must be more than a political or a military fact. The state must be founded on knowledge and on enlightenment. It must try to achieve the good life for its citizens, and that can be done only if its citizens are educated and enlightened. I think I know the precious worth of a good education and university training better than most men. That's because I was never able to obtain a college education. I had to get such learning as I have through my own reading and my own efforts. And that makes you realize how important, how very valuable university training is. We have achieved our unity in this country, not by eliminating our differences in religion and tradition, not by hiding or suppressing our political and economic conflicts, but by holding to a concept which rises above all of them, the concept of the brotherhood of man. The first step of every enemy of this country has always been to attempt separate and different strands, to separate the different strands of faith and belief out of which this nation has been woven. Our enemies have tried to set group against group, faith against faith, to create prejudice and to spread hate and distrust among our people. The history of the world, there have been some movements inspired by a desire for greater justice among men, which have denied or forgotten the religious foundation of those ideals. Sooner or later, these movements have wavered and lost their way. They've become self-centered. They've been set up on their own interests as the only standard of right and wrong, and they have degenerated from movements of liberation into movements of tyranny and oppression. All the great religions represented in this country, whatever their differences, acknowledge this belief in God as the Father and Creator of mankind. Those of us who really believe in God, therefore, can never be content to live for ourselves alone. We must always be working to eliminate injustice and to create a society which carries out our ideals. When I was president, I asked that our federal government take an active part in this effort to achieve justice. I call for legislation to protect the rights of our citizens, all citizens, to assure their equal participation in national life and to reduce discrimination based upon prejudice. In view of the fundamental faith of this country and the clear language of our Constitution, I do not see how we can do otherwise than adopt such legislation. We have made a start in that direction. We must strive abroad as well as at home to defend human rights and to expand the enjoyment of freedom. We've taken a firm stand in the councils of the United Nations against the violation of human rights. The task of achieving greater justice and freedom is long and difficult. The belief on which we have founded our form of government and our hope of a better world are under attack. In various parts of the world today, human rights and freedom are being deliberately violated and suppressed. Men and women are being systematically persecuted for their religious and political beliefs. Campaigns are being waged to turn religion and government into tools of the state. Now that must not happen. This great organization is striving for the ideals at home and abroad, and I know that someday they will be achieved. Until that day, we must keep praying and fighting for the right. Thank you very much for this privilege of telling you what I think about these things.